For 8 years, I've been calling the Tampa Bay Rays campaign for a new home and better attendance the stadium saga. But this week, I've been looking to freshen things up. Thought about renaming it Home Alone or Eat, Pray, Glove. But I ultimately settled on they got 99 problems, but getting rich ain't one. Because pro sports ownership has become the participation trophy of corporate America. Even when you suck and make giant mistakes, you're basically guaranteed profits. Except those guaranteed profits for sports team owners are largely due to the tens of billions of dollars teams have received from taxpayers in recent years. And most of the time, those dollars could go to other needs, but you'd never know it. In Arlington, Texas, public officials cut a secret deal giving the Rangers $500 million for a new modern stadium to replace their existing modern stadium. In Metro Atlanta, politicians agreed to a secret deal for a new Braves stadium, then realized they didn't have money they've already committed to building new parks. And we're talking about actual city parks here, not the kind controlled by baseball teams. And of course, here in Tampa Bay, the 18-year-old Rays franchise wants what everyone else has too. Because if we all remember back to when we were 18, we also wanted what everyone else has just because. But what you may not know is that just like their friends in Major League Baseball, the Rays are having these important meetings about a new stadium in secret with your public officials, which limits our ability to know how tax dollars will be spent. I know, the Rays have a raw deal at Tropicana Field. The lighting stinks. We can't open the roof those few nice days each spring where we aren't actually dripping sweat from our nether regions. And to get to the stadium, you have to get in your car and cross a body of water, which isn't quite as hard as when Jesus did it, but don't tell that to someone in Tampa because they'll tell you it's harder. It's not easy being the Tampa Bay Rays, but it also doesn't suck either.
The average baseball team is now worth $1.2 billion.
Got a ton of TV money coming into the sport, and the days of owners crying poor, they can't cry poor anymore.
Major League Baseball is expected to pull in $10 billion in revenue this year, and Forbes estimates those robust riches are enough to help everybody turn a profit. In fact, the estimated value of the Rays franchise has tripled since Stu Sternberg bought the team. So saying the Rays need a new stadium is like saying Pasco County Sheriff Chris Nacco needs a rainstorm. Sure, precipitation makes for an irresistible opportunity to hold a press conference, but has Nacco really ever needed an excuse? The ladies of the newsroom say no. Now, to the Rays' credit, Sternberg has indicated he'd chip in a good chunk of change to get a stadium built, but he's also suggested taxpayers should do the same, although neither he nor the team's president will say how much or when we can expect to find out.
What will the team do to make sure this doesn't become a Miami Marlins situation where we spend years of looking for tax dollars?
We'll be as open as we can. 2, it's premature for me to explain exactly how we're going to go about this process because we're going to spend the next few months building that plan.
That was 20 months ago, and apparently it's still premature because discussions about a new stadium are still being conducted secretly. See, if we wanted to pitch in money to a secretive local business, the Church of Scientology is right down the street. But the religion of pro sports isn't much different. We get so swept up in the spirit of it all, we fail to ask some legitimate questions, and our elected officials are the worst offenders. Right now, they're holding secret behind closed-door meetings, they're repeating bogus economic impact claims, and at least one, Hillsborough Commissioner Ken Hagan, has flip-flopped on promises not to spend public money on new stadiums. This was his pledge in 2010, not to spend tax dollars on a Rays stadium.
And I'm certainly not talking about public financing.
5 years later, he changed his tune.
There will need to be some public dollars invested. It is my hope and belief that we can limit those dollars to infrastructure improvements.
So now the discussion shifts to how much of a new stadium can we consider public infrastructure? You may see that as a front row hot tub, but to the creative politician, that's a pool in the park for the young people of our community. And just like we've seen in Atlanta and Texas, our local leaders are intentionally misleading you about the other things possible stadium money could go toward. Our best guess for the public cost of a new Rays stadium is somewhere in the $200 to $300 million range, which would be enough to fix all of Tampa's ridiculous flooding problems. Or enough for the mayor to buy a pair of his signature green pants for every single voter in Florida, which he might actually do because, he'd like to be governor. Look, hometown teams are good for our community. And without our money, they may eventually pick up and leave. But when it comes to how big of a check we're going to cut those teams, it's the job of this guy to ask tough questions. Politicians, it's your job too. If you want to spend tax dollars on a new Rays stadium, just make sure you can explain the return on investment. Because it's unacceptable to say the Rays need the cash. They may have 99 problems, but getting rich ain't one.